Hey, welcome back to the e-learning video series on BSF Biowaste Processing. This is the introduction module to the BSF Rearing chapter. After watching this module, you'll be able to define requirements to rear BSF in a controlled environment. You'll also understand the general overview of the stage environments for the BSF Rearing. You'll be able to develop and follow the operational checklist. You'll be able to identify and report the performance indicators of the BSF Rearing stages. And you'll be able to identify preparatory and finishing activities necessary to operate the BSF Rearing system.
So to ensure high productivity of the black soldier fly reared in a controlled environment, each stage of the BSF has to be handled in a contained space so that all the BSF entering a certain stage can be monitored in their container before they move to their next life stage. So using this system, the performance of each stage change can be expressed in a development rate. For example, how many young larvae have hatched from the eggs that were placed above the nursery crates. 4 of these development rates are used as performance indicators to measure the performance of the rearing unit.
In this chapter, we'll be passing through the life cycle of the BSF, explaining you at each stage of the life cycle what the processes are to handle the black soldier fly in that life stage. The life stages will be passed through following the BSF Lifecycle that you see in front of you on the screen. So the first step is the fly stage, which will cover the operations between setting up the loft cages, the mating and oviposition events of the flies, as well as dismantling again the loft cage. We then remove the egg media, which are harvested from the loft cage, and they are placed over nursery crates in the hatchling shower. And in the last step, they are removed again from the hatchling shower. Now, in this hatchling shower, the hatchling stage will include the hatchlings emerging from the eggs up until the moment that the hatchlings are counted and prepared for the organic waste treatment operation. Then a small portion of the young larvae is used again in the nursery to replenish the population. And this is called the growth stage, where we will follow the larvae as they are growing from 5-day-old until 17-day-old larvae, the stage where they will be transferred into units that will be used to grow out the prepupae. The prepupae stage itself starts when the 17-day-old larvae are placed into the larvae units, where they grow out into prepupae that will then self-harvest, and the stage ends when the produced prepupae are added into the pupation material, where they will transform into pupae. The last stage happens in the pupation crates. They are filled with prepupae that have started their pupation phase. They are now called pupae. They are placed in the dark cages, and the stage ends when the flies emerge from the pupae, ready to be harvested by connecting the dark cage to the loft cage again and restarting the life cycle.
Throughout the following modules, on the 6 BSF life stages that we just passed through, every time we finish informing you about what operations happen in that stage, you'll be coming back to the overview in front of you of the operational checklist. This operational checklist is used to make sure that the operator performs all the tasks according to the standard operating procedure, and at the same time ensures that all the tasks are handled in a certain way and with a certain order, where the order is described by the numbers that you see in the far left column. So number 1 is your operation that the operator should start with every day, and so on. So we pass through all these operations, and the operations itself will be described again after you have received the information in the respective modules. So each module will have part of this operational checklist with the operations that are specifically performed in that module. So that's the second column, and then the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth column, where you see all the X's. Those mark the week numbers, and under there you'll have 7 columns for each week with the day numbers. These columns are used for the operator to check off when the operation has finished and to decide on which days the operation will be happening. Later in the module for planning and designing the BSF facility, you'll find more information on how to prepare an operational checklist yourself and how to design the checklist for a certain scale of operation that you are planning. In the last column of this overview, you'll find the time allocated for each operation, which is only indicative. This means that this is the value that we found running the operation at our site. And for you, this could be a different value. The numbers 1 to 5 indicate data collection points, where you have to fill in data from the operation in a performance control log sheet. The goal of filling in this data is to check on the performance of the nursery operation by summarizing this data in a spreadsheet. We have a separate control log sheet for this operation to keep it easy to fill in the data later in the Excel file. You will see this sheet. You're seeing the sheet now in front of you, where you can fill in this data from the operation. The tables in the sheet each refer to a certain stage of the BSF, which will be covered in the following modules. In each of those modules, we'll be giving you some examples on how to fill in the specific table that is presented then in the sheet. Part of the operational checklist concerns with the preparatory and cleaning operations done daily. When we pass through the BSF Lifecycle stage modules, we'll not be focusing on this specific checklist because it doesn't concern with a specific stage in the BSF Lifecycle. It's in general concerned with the operation of the nursery. So that's why I want to briefly go over this checklist with you now in this introduction module. As you can see, we have 10 operations concerned with preparatory and cleaning activities. This is the way that we handle the operation at our site. Again, we will be coming back on how you can prepare this operational checklist for your own site in the planning and design module towards the end of this learning video series. So as you can see, we have some different operations concerned with preparing the site. We roll out the bamboo curtains for additional lighting for the loft cages and to protect them against rain when needed. We fill water of the end traps to prevent ants from getting into the different containers. Again, because we have an open site, ants can always come into the site. We have a bunch of cleaning operations where we make sure that the nursery room is swept, the work tables are cleaned, and we clean our lab space where we do the counting and the data collection. Important for the cleaning is that the surfaces that were in contact with BSF are cleaned with alcohol as well, just to make sure that diseases that might be present are then removed. Then, at the end of the day, we roll all the bamboo curtains down again. We make sure that all the towels and lab coats are washed at 60 or 90 degrees and that the performance data collected from the nursery is inputted on the log sheet and entered in the spreadsheets. We have now covered the different stages that we'll be passing through in the following modules, as well as part of the structure of the modules, meaning that the sheets that we'll be following in the operations. Here, I wanted to provide you with an overview of what the other modules in general will be looking like, and that means how they are being built up. You saw that we started this module by telling you that each of the next modules will focus on the BSF Light stage. Each of these modules will start with the general information about the BSF stage, and that comes after a general introduction video shortly showing you the different activities that will be happening in the operation. Then you will be going over the operation by starting with an overview of the required materials that are needed for this operation. We will then move to the operational video where you'll see in detail, step by step, how we pass through the operation in terms of the activities. We will then recap these activities following the checklist that I have explained to you in the previous slides. I will be telling you at which point you might have to input performance data. Then we'll end each module with a question and answer to refresh your knowledge and to make sure that you have gained this knowledge through the module.
We have come to the end of this module on the introduction to BSF Rearing. We saw that the BSF can be reared in a controlled environment using a simple low-tech system. We also saw that each life cycle stage of the BSF can be handled in a separate container. And lastly, we learned that various performance indicators need to be measured to be able to understand the efficiency of the process. Thank you for watching this module, part of the e-learning video series on BSF Biowaste Processing. More information can be found in the BSF step-by-step guide, which you can download through the QR code here. Both of these materials were part of the Forward project by EWAC, in collaboration with the Ministry of Public Works in Indonesia and funded by SECO, the Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs.